All right, good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. A good morning to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, also co creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thanks so much for joining us wherever you're watching from. Um, as you well know, every Saturday, every weekend, I like to try to get into the goings on of what's happening over the course of the week, and just want to welcome you guys. I do have my fellow co-host to join me to talk about a lot of the news bits on this week in review. So let me bring him on now. Bring on Spillman. What's going on, sir?
What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? It's your boy back again for another week of you know prophesizing the GOAT, LeBron James, here on your airwaves. I just love to talk about how great the Lakers are and how many more championships we have than Brandon's team. So I just
Here
want
we
y'all
go.
to remember that.
Here we go. Here we go. But as I said, welcome Spillman. We're going to dive right into this edition of This Week in Review. Just know, guys, just as a reminder, if you guys need like a recap of the goings on, to make sure that you keep it locked here every weekend. We also have a database, or I guess you could say a playlist of our prior episodes. So if there are any things that we may have missed, you can go back and check out those episodes. I'll put it either in the description below or just above, that you can click on the link to check out the prior episodes. But with that out of the way, let's dive into some of the stories. The first one that I want to get into is sports story, since we were just talking sports just a moment ago, Spills, and that is centered around the Tennessee Titans. They provided a look at their new stadium, which is set to arrive in 2027. Quite impressive, in terms of what they had as kind of like a preview, video, if you will, or model of what the stadium, is anticipated to look like. What are your thoughts on what they had to show? I'm gonna try to see if I can pull up the video for you guys, and I'll put it over to you in the meantime, Spills.
All right, cool. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, I am as you may not know, because we don't talk about football here. We've only talked about basketball because that's the greatest sport ever invented by man. But I'm a huge Commanders fan. So this new stadium news has got me chomping at the bit with our new ownership package. The stadium looks very cool. I think the people of Tennessee, that they have a rabid fan base. It's really the only professional team, really, other than I think the Thrashers. I think Nashville has a team over there, but really, and the Grizzlies, of course. Grindhouse. But to see what the Titans are doing, and these NFL stadiums, buku bucks, $2.1 billion. Let's just throw another billion on there. I mean, who cares? I'm excited for that. The NFL, as we know, is a cash cow. 90,000 people in the stadium. They make tons of money. They run the airwaves. Your boy will be selected for a fantasy team. We may do a fantasy draft thing or something. Look at this. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. They have pavilions for eating and stuff. They install some new skyscrapers in Tennessee. Good for them. Look at this. It's just, the suites look immaculate. That's pretty cool. Love to see what they end up doing with it. A lot of the newer stadiums are very nice. Jerry World comes to mind. I think it's the LG in Los Angeles for the Rams. That's a nice one too. But these newer stadiums are nice. Hopefully they don't get too ostentatious with it. I like the one even in Jacksonville with the swimming pool. Maybe they'll do something with a little bit of local flair. Maybe some Nashville hot pickled something or other. Maybe they'll get some kind of music part. That would be nice. I think it'd be nice if they actually had a see. This is a concert bit, but like if they had like actual live music during the games instead of just stadium noise. Because I think that Tennessee and I think that they play in Nashville. But the idea that the Titans would embrace more of their local flavor would be great. So we'll see how it goes. How about you, Brandon?
Oh well. let me just give a rundown, based off of what's going on, with this stadium. So, just a little background information. This is a shout out to Yahoo Sports. In April, the city of Nashville had agreed to the stadium proposal, using 1.26 billion in public funding, which actually marks the largest, apparently, public subsidy ever for an American a stadium. And to go into further depth about what we have at this stadium. Construction is stated to begin, or scheduled to begin, after the 2023 season, and for the time being, the Titans will continue to play in Nissan Stadium until, of course, this facility is completed. Now, from the video that we have here, is, as it says, giving you a preview of what it's going to look like, but just to run down some of the features. It's going to feature artificial turf, and let's see. It says while its capacity will be smaller than that of Nissan Stadium of 69,000. It's indicated that the sight lines of even the farthest seats will be, vastly improved over the current stadium. It's going to be located on the east bank of the Cumberland River, not too far from the current stadium, Nissan's stadium home. It will be located slightly, back from the riverfront, which will, allow for sitting will allow for more development of the riverfront parkland versus Nissan Stadium parking, as it stands now. So, I mean, there's a lot to look forward to, with this facility, and time will tell, what's going to happen with it. As I said, it's still an ongoing, process, and they don't plan to have it actually finished until 2027. So it's still quite a ways down the pike, so to speak. I mean, we're still in 2023. That's still 4 years away. A lot can happen in 4 years. So, just to give you an example, um, we couple of weeks ago we were doing a show, at least part of our team. I was over in San Diego for San Diego Comic-Con, and I remember not too long ago, there was a lot of talk of there being, movement with changes to the convention center and additional space being allotted for some additional, hotel space to accommodate, not just San Diego Comic Con, but other shows that are there in the area in downtown San Diego, and nothing really came of it. It ended up not really moving forward. So uh, you know it's I'm happy to see that this team will get another stadium, but again, it's still quite a ways down the line, and so much can happen, as we have seen time and time again, can happen within 2 years time, let alone 4 years time. So it'll be cool to see if it that it actually comes together, but again, a lot can happen in that time. Do you have any additional thoughts before we move on to our next story?
Just, happy that Magic Johnson, Laker great, has come to Washington to make the team a better team and to, just make us a more efficient sell. So, shouts to my main man, Magic.
Fair deal.
You see how happy he is, ladies and gentlemen. He's so happy. Look how happy he is about this Laker great. He doesn't even want to be like, he can't even say Laker great about Magic Johnson. And Magic Johnson possibly the GOAT of basketball. He can't even say it because he's like, oh, but love to see it.
Yeah, and Magic Johnson is awesome. I love Magic Johnson, but again, we're gonna have to agree to disagree with the resumes. The resumes there. Resumes tell the tale, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh yeah. Because
resumes tell the tale, and no doubt, Magic is up there. He's one of the greats.
Won a Finals MVP as a rookie, and he played out of position to win a chip. So
no doubt.
That's it. There's not very many
resumes
individual performances up there like that, bro.
Those resumes speak for themselves. I don't have to argue them. But anyway,
All right, there
moving
you go.
on.
There you go.
Talking a little business, a little entertainment business. Uh, Something that transpired over the course of this week is just the news that the VFX, those that work with Marvel Studios, are voting to unionize. There has been a lot of news over, I guess you could say, over the time of the pandemic, and even slightly prior to that, where there have been news that have been coming through the grapevine, uh, throughout that time of those that were working on the VFX side with a lot of these Marvel projects. Not only were getting overworked, but not getting paid their just due of the workload that was expected of them, and getting a lot of these projects done. I know there has been a trend among moviegoers and audiences talking about a the type of the quality of the VFX that have been seen in a lot of the projects, whether it's been in the movies or even in the TV series. And as more and more information comes out, it's shared of the unreasonable expectations that are placed on these VFX teams to get a lot of these effects done, and how little time they're provided in order to be able to meet those expectations of what they need to do in order to accomplish that. So, Spillman, you hear this news of the VFX folks, with Marvel Studios voting to unionize, and share with me, what your impressions are of this.
It's times like this that I wish I had my own visual effects packet, because this would be the point where I go into red spill and we start talking about these, labor enactments that we're talking about. Obviously, it's a $1 billion corporation. They come out with $1 billion properties. They sell hundreds and hundreds of millions of tickets every year to these properties. They also sell hundreds of eyes on these streaming platforms and everything. So to see that these workers are working together to make sure that they aren't trampled upon by the corporate overlords, as they were, it's a great thing to see. Marvel Studios is known for, having an attention to quality on things. And, when there's no unionization, quality can be overlooked for quantity or just the amount of stuff that they do. So it's one thing to have these people out here working for these companies and making them billions of dollars, but it's another thing for them to get a fair shake at the slice of the pie, because it's plenty of money to go around for these properties. That's the other thing that we seem to be ignoring. Marvel prints money. They print money. Like, we're not even just talking about these shows and stuff. The merchandising alone, like these people should be getting a cut of all of that, because you couldn't merchandise if it wasn't for these visual effects teams making what is imagination come to life. So they give life to imagination, and that's a skill that's unmatched. And I'm happy to see that they're doing it. Hopefully, this will, generally, this will affect the standard of what's coming out and everything, and it'll help with some of the visual effects, so we don't get so much cartoonized visual effects, which are things that I complain about as well. But there you go. This is the kind. You see how they look all ready for protest? If I had a visual effects packet, ladies and gentlemen, I'd have a beret. I'd have a bunch of worker things instead of the hammer and sickle back here. We'd probably do like a protractor and a pencil, because that's what visual artists use. Maybe a little tablet pen, of course. We could do that. But just for these people, they work hard. That I don't. I don't think that we really realize how much goes into it. You know, I realized something the other day with a lot of this stuff with unionizing. We don't even see credits anymore. Like, when's the last time if you binge a lot of TV, you don't see credits. You see the director, the executive director, and then they're on to the next episode. We don't even get to see Brandon and Spillman and lighting. We don't get to see their contribution. So, you know, part of that is why they're being I feel that they're being so railroaded. So hopefully we can get more of this kind of traction, and these people can get paid what they're supposed to. Any other thoughts about this, Brandon?
So here's the thing. As I said, just to go back through the history of how we got here, right? I remember during that time of the pandemic, and a lot of things were happening in terms business wise, where we had theaters that were shut down. We had other folks, actual productions that were shut down. So not only did we have projects that were not able to be seen by audiences, those projects that were already completed, but we also weren't getting those projects that were still in production that had been shut down as well. So you had it on both ends. And I recall during that time, this is during the time when Disney was under different management. This is once Bob Iger had left, if I recall, and he had brain fart on the gentleman's name, but he had groomed.
Feige?
Say again?
Was that Kevin Feige at the time?
I want to say yes. I'll pull it up, but
I think it's Feige. Yeah.
yeah, where he had been grooming someone to take his place while once he had left, and that said person took over for him. And during that time, because there was a desire for content, because a lot of people weren't getting content at that time, and not a lot of new content. There was a hold in many ways, because we weren't able to see some of these shows, and if or some of these shows or some of these films, and if we were, they were delayed a great deal. So we I think around that time, we kept getting delays with a lot of the Marvel television series, and I want to say the first one that was out of the gate was WandaVision. And WandaVision actually wasn't even supposed to be the first one out of the gate, but based on the circumstances of the pandemic and delays and trying to figure out where things are going to fall. Is this project going to end up being in theaters? Can we wait for theaters to open back up to put this film out there, or are we going to put it on our streaming service? During that time, under that regime, there was a push and it seemed to be a mission of just trying to get as much content out there as possible. And unfortunately, as a repercussion of that stance of quantity over quality, we've had quite a few television series as well as films that have suffered from that, where upon looking at what the finished product was. And this is, a testament and also a detriment to what's happened with the MCU, because a lot of folks have the MCU hold in such a high regard. There is an expectation, there is a precedent that has been set because of what has come before. So because of that, for better or for worse, we had projects where probably under any other circumstance they would have been perfectly fine, but because it's a Marvel project and there is a expectation that comes with that pedigree, that a lot of them were kind of middle of the road. I mean, don't get me wrong, there have been some series, and I've commented before, and we've done shows on it, where I've enjoyed a great deal, a great many of them. However, there have been some that have been middle of the road. There, that I want to say the ones that I've enjoyed more have been those that have been more grounded, where it's more of a heightened reality, versus
Mm-hmm.
something that's a little more over the top, or fantasy related. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I guess arguably you could say, you're probably, asking, am I saying this in regards to maybe like Loki? I enjoyed Loki a lot. I enjoyed it, which is not on everyone's list. I enjoyed Falcon and Winter Soldier a lot. However, there have been, some series out there where, as I said, they weren't bad and they weren't great either. They were just okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just testament to that idea where, it's been, brought up with that prior regime, that was the goal, to churn out as much, content as possible, and let the chips fall where they may. However, when we first started the MCU, when we were in those first couple of what is it, phases,
Phase one, yeah, phase one.
phases of the MCU, that wasn't, that wasn't the approach. The approach was to, while don't get me wrong, there is a shared tapestry, or a connection between a lot of these films. Overall, the idea was to make that individual project as good as it could possibly be, and then to move on to the next project, and so on and so forth. Now, don't get me wrong, MCU has never batted at 1,000, but they've been pretty close for those first couple of phases. While there are some, misnomers here and there, overall, they have, which is crazy to think about. They nearly batted 1,000 with a lot of the projects that they had up through that entire, what I guess we could say, Infinity Saga. So,
We can say that, but there's arguments for. There's a couple of duds in there. Like there's the dud of
as I said,
Iron Man 2.
I didn't say 1,000.
The
I said near 1,000. There are a handful
okay,
in there
sure.
that are, that are okay, they're not that great, but still,
First Thor movie, like
considering considering all of the films that they have in that
Mexico,
entire catalog of the first three phases, it's pretty incredible how many of
Mexico.
them are actually quite good.
Okay, sure, that's fine. I can agree with that, but this is all hindsight. Like
We're
like
talking
you
about
said,
what, like 20 plus of films, and
for
and
sure,
out of
for
20 plus
sure.
films, you telling me that like more than half, two-thirds of them, if not slightly more, are actually quite good. That's pretty impressive.
It's
So
impressive, but just with all of this stuff, at a certain point, it's a corporate strategy on things, and things aren't always going to go well. Like you can't, like you said, you can't bat 1,000. So
you can't.
ultimately, it's just
But
important. It's just important that these people get their money because they may not have batted 1,000 on all of these, but they were getting paid every single one of them far more
but
than they
here's the
put in. So
thing.
that's
Here's
what
the
it really
thing,
is.
though, and again, I feel like it has been a casualty of that approach of focusing over quantity, over quality. And now that we are, that we're under a new regime with Disney, and we're seeing a lot of the projects being, spread out a little further. We're seeing things that are being delayed. We're seeing things that are, possibly retweaked, so that way we don't have, what a surplus of various projects, and where there's an opportunity just to focus on a couple over a course of a release year. Um, Hopefully, that will, alleviate a lot of the issues that we, seen with this, with this situation with VFX, the VFX folks that work on these films. But again, even among those circumstances, it's still, vital that,
For sure.
you're providing, you're treating each of your, teams appropriately for, their time, their efforts, of what they are bringing to the table. So I don't know if you have any additional, thoughts or final thoughts in that regard before we hop into Trailer Alley of our two trailers that popped up over the course of this week. Did you have any final thoughts to share?
No, sir. Let's get on to these trailers because I'm excited about those too.
Okay. All right, cool. So as I said, hopping over into Trailer Alley, we had two trailers that dropped this week, and that is none other than Apple TV's The Changeling, as well as Peacock's The Continental. Just to go into some details about The Changeling, let me put it up here. For The Changeling, it is, excuse me, hold on, I'm sorry. It is, just as the name suggests, based on Victor Lavalle's horror book that follows Apollo Kagawa, a used book dealer, after his father's strange disappearance. Now grown up, now an adult, and a father himself, Apollo's childhood nightmares return to haunt him. His wife, Emma, is also exhibiting strange behavior that is attributed to postpartum depression. However, Apollo soon realizes that something bigger than he could ever imagine is afoot. Now, we have a trailer for the Changeling. However, as I mentioned before, we also have the trailer for the prequel series for John Wick, known as the Continental, that also goes into the those early days of that facility that we have come to know in the universe of John Wick, which basically tells the story of Winston in his early days before he was in charge of the Continental, and the goings on of how he came about taking over the Continental. This refuge that we know many of the assassins within the world of John Wick to stay at, as a place of refuge and as a neutral location, if you will, for their business dealings. So, Changeling, Continental, Spillman, your thoughts?
All right, so we went with alliteration here this week, ladies and gentlemen. We got two C name properties. I think The Changeling is the most interesting because it's a novel that is a newer novel. There's not too many adaptations of this, so I'm interested in that the most because in our times, we don't have many writers out here. So the fact that this property was greenlit and follows this and is on Apple TV is pretty good. I think Lakeith does really good on horror. He always has. When we think of Get Out, we actually really think of Lakeith as the character of the man who had gone through the process and was struggling with his own brain, fighting off the brain of the other man that was put grafted into his. So we do. I like to see the Keith in horror type products, and it'll be interesting because it's going to be a series, so it'll be a building one, which is interesting. The Continental is interesting because I want to see how many people get shot because I like to see people get shot. This is America. This is what we all come for. We like to see gung fu as it is. It's one of the greatest innovations of the last 25 to 30 years in movie making, especially the action movie genre. I can't think of anything else that has changed. The closest thing I can think of is when they came out with Bullet Time on The Matrix, which is also ironically a Keanu Reeves property. But to see these properties, I think the one I'd be most excited for is Changeling, but the Continental is very intriguing. I like a good period piece. Hopefully, it's a lot of jive turkeys in this. I'd like to hear the actors play jive turkeys. It's interesting that your boy is on the Continental show. I believe that's Mel Gibson. I don't know how much they had to pay for him. So again, they got money out there, ladies and gentlemen. We were talking about the unions in the last section, but they got money. They're paying for Mel Gibson to be on the show, so it should be a good show. So I'm interested. What about you, Brandon?
So okay, let me go over both. I'll go over Changeling. I know you commented on it briefly, just now, and I haven't had a chance to check the book that it's adapted from. I'm sure it'll now intrigue me enough to check it out. I'm anyone who knows me is that I love horror series, horror projects, and I'm always eager to dive into any horror series. Just to give you an idea of if we're talking about a lot of the streaming services that have had some interesting ones, I would probably say is I'm brain farting on the name. I want to say it's Black Mass. If anyone had a chance to check out Black Mass was actually quite good. Of course, The Haunting of Hill House was also terrific as well. So just to be able to dive into a story that will allow you to see an expansive story where the characters are allotted enough time for you to be able to learn about them, to dive into their lives, and to see how the horror elements weave into those aspects of their lives. I'll be really fascinated to see. I know a lot of times when we're talking about movies, because we know we're only given a finite amount of time in order to tell a story. Sometimes a lot of elements of a horror film can feel rushed, and there's a temptation a lot of times to make horror movies really short, because I guess the idea is that if it's short, then we can ramp up the suspense or ramp up the scares, and if it's too long, it might not work, because we're picturing that there's not going to be enough suspense or any of those elements at play. So very fascinated to see what happens with that. Now, the Continental is supposed to apparently take place in the 1970s, long before the days of John Wick, present day. So based on the action that they've shown, I'm definitely intrigued. It's just that I'm trying, as cool of a character that Winston is, undoubtedly a cool character. I'm just trying to see.
Does he need his own show?
I'm just trying to see how that's going to work in the context of a show. So, yeah, that's my only concern. I love the world of John Wick. I love the universe, the world building that they created among that universe. I'm just a little iffy on if folks are going to be that fascinated in following Winston's, rise into taking over the Continental. So hopefully they do it in an interesting way. I will say this, based off of what we've had in the last two installments of John Wick, perhaps this will give us a better idea or a better inkling as to why Winston seems to be so hard pressed into holding on to the Continental, based on what this show demonstrates. Apparently he's been through a lot in order to be able to say that he is in charge of the Continental. So, because I remember when watching those films, I'm like, dude, just let it go. Like you don't need the Continental. Just move on to a new spot. But like it seems so like invested in this place, and may perhaps based off of what we're seeing, it seems like he's had to go through to get to where he is. Will give us a clear picture as to why he seems to be so invested in this place. Any other thoughts before we get to our last story?
Nope. I'm right here with it.
Cool. So just as you saw in the title, the last thing that I want to get into is some film news, and there are two stories that I want to hop into. Is centered around not only, let me pull it up here, not only MCU. I know we were talking about MCU a little earlier. Centered around John Watts confirming the conclusion to No Way Home, as well as, and this is a follow up from what we had last week, of Wonder Woman 3 not happening after all. So, in talking about John Watts, and I'll pull up this was a story out of, let me pull it up here 1 second. Story out of Variety, and apparently in a art book that was released, and this is as I said, I'm sorry, not out of Variety, out of the Direct. I apologize. Uh, Out of the a book that was released for Spider-Man, known as Spider-Man: No Way Home: The Art of the Movie. It confirmed with a quote from John Watts, who of course is the director of the film, that the end of No Way Home, which sees, Spider-Man essentially start from scratch again, was always intended to act as the origin story, or I should say his origin story within the MCU. When talking about, that idea of how that film concluded, Watts was quoted as saying,
Oh, we lost your
that
audio. So I'll pick up right here since we've lost Brandon's audio. I'm really interested
that
in.
moment from the
Okay, there you go. He's back. Sorry
film
about that, ladies and gentlemen.
was always about doing something different, uh, something that hadn't been seen before with Peter Parker. When we were doing Homecoming, the discussions were always about how we do something that you haven't seen before, Peter.
Yeah. So, I'm interested in it. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I think Spider-Man is my favorite superhero out of them all. I like the way that they, ended the No Way Home film. I say No Way Out because of Puffy. But it looks like, um, okay, it looks like we're running out of battery, but I'm gonna just wrap it up really quickly. I'm interested in it. I like the tease that they did with the symbiote, bringing the symbiote into this universe. I think that's a really big thing um, for the um, for this property. Secondly, moving on um, to the Wonder Woman news. I really commended just last week. You, ladies and gentlemen, you heard me. That I commended the good folks at DC to um, put that young. Come here. All right, we're going to do a little thing, ladies and gentlemen. Brandon and I are just going to work it out together in the same room. We apologize for the slight inconvenience, but so with these properties, we were saying we were surprised last week that they would move forward with a Wonder Woman 3, and Gal Gadot seemed like that was what her plan was or what our plan was. Um, but to see that they didn't actually want to do that is really disappointing, and it makes us sad. But you know, these are the way that things go. When you hire a new head of something, generally the old team is going to be split up and that person's going to pick their own people. So sad to see that Gail may not be having the Wonder Woman 2. That makes me sad. I'm sure it makes Brandon sad. We're unfortunately experiencing technical difficulties. I think we can just continue here. Hold on for me, ladies and gentlemen. We could just close this out. Brandon's going to come in here and say a quick few words for you, ladies and gentlemen, so that we all. There's some technology issues. We can't fix it, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah, it is. So what I will say is this, because I didn't have a chance to kind of got cut off while we were having technical issues, but at least y'all can still hear me. Just getting into the idea that when we're talking about, John Watts's comments, it's not, shocking, of what he had to confirm there. With us having so many iterations of Spider-Man, there had to be some fresh take that they had to go with in order to reach the same destination. And so by kind of providing us with a different iteration of quote unquote Uncle Ben, but still allowing us to still get to those same beats that we come to expect with Spider-Man, where he's kind of on his own. He doesn't really have a lot of resources. He doesn't have a lot of allies. Those are things that we've come to, know and come to appreciate when it comes to Spider-Man. And so the fact that he was still able to, as I said, reach or touch on those story beats in his own unique way, is still, quite impressive, and also, quite cool that he was still be able to bring his fresh take, after so many iterations that we've had with that character. Now, lastly, with Wonder Woman, also not surprising.
Not at all.
If we're talking Wonder Woman, I had mentioned it last week when the news came out that we want to actually have Wonder Woman as a possibility in this new regime, as you can see with Gunn and Safran. And it didn't really make any sense, because if you're really going to do a reboot, do a reboot. If you're going to do a reboot, then it means that you have to do a clean slate, and that means redoing all the characters. You can't really, I always say Ben and Jerry, that approach of trying to do a fresh take. Even if there are elements, and I'm sure that there were components of the previous universe that was created with the DC universe that, James Gunn enjoyed, and even he himself, has been privy to. If they're going to do a fresh take, they got to do a fresh take and throw everything out the window and start from scratch again. That's just the nature of doing a reboot. If you really want to be, true to that idea of doing a reboot. So all that being said, again, apologies for the technical difficulties. It happens. It's the nature of the beast of doing a live show. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, also co-creator of Movies and Shakers Unlimited, and I'm joined by
Spill. You can catch me out on Truly Spill on Instagram. Remember, today Paul Gasol, one of the greatest power forwards in the history of the game, is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. So that's another Laker that's in the Hall of Fame, rather than a Warrior, because there's no Warriors getting inducted today.
Oh, wow.
The Lakers are getting inducted today.
Because they still playing. Those
right.
Hall of Famers are still playing. That's why they're not inducted.
We got Hall of Famers that are still playing too, ladies and gentlemen. We have the literal GOAT. He himself. Bah. So we'll see you guys next week. We promise we won't have the same issue with our technology. Thank you for all your support that you give us every day.
Absolutely.
And we will see you guys next week, okay?
Yep, and we will have an announcement in the coming days, so be on the lookout regarding coming film festival that's coming up in the coming days this week. But until then, see you next time.
Peace.